This is a hands-on tutorial to learn about Shiny by building the application ourselves. It's an interactive UI built entirely in Python that is actually used for data science, but we're going to use it here just to build a photo gallery and not put the visualizations in at this time. So this slider and the gallery itself are built with Shiny. Okay, I'm going to use UV, which is an alternative to pip. I'm going to init a new project. I'll call it Shiny Tutorial Gallery. And I'll change into the new folder that I just created. Let's add Shiny. I'm going to use this free editor, positron. I'll open up the folder I just created. I'm going to change this main.py to app.py. Okay, blank file. At the top of the file, I'm going to import Shiny. From Shiny, we're going to import the app. And let's import the UI for now. So the UI, we can create it here. I'll create a variable in Python, UI. It's built into Shiny. It's page fluid. We'll use the new Shiny conventions that we're learning, h2, .h2. And let's put a string here. Okay, we have our bare bones UI. We also need the server portion. So let's go ahead and create the server. And it's a Python function in Shiny, which will have input, output, session, and it's not going to return anything, and we'll have it be passed. Okay, we just need a stub server for now. The key part is to instantiate the Shiny app. So this app is from Shiny, and we pass it the app UI that we just created, and the word server here, it's matching. This editor, I'm going to press the play button right here, and it opens up the Shiny photo gallery with what we have right here. We're next going to work on the slider component. And the slider requires an ID. So we'll start off with the UI, which is from right there. It's in Shiny. So we're going to use an input slider. There's much of these input things. They're kind of fun to play around with. And you find the one that you want. We're going to use the slider element. We're going to use an ID of n for number. So the ID is just a name, and this input, this particular one, the input's ID is n. So the server can read it as input.n. So it's just an ID, right? And there's a label here for the slider. Number of photos to display. And we'll have 0, 30, and 2. And it says, syntax error, did you forget a comma? I did forget a comma. Okay, now we have our server here, our slider. Show the element. Right, this thing's in a column here, right? So we could theoretically put something here. So you want to put some type of like output. It would just appear as an output here. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab the contents of a function that we're going to create in the future, output UI, which is this. So this is built into Shiny in this UI component. And it's output UI. We use the ID gallery. This gallery doesn't exist right now, but we will create it right now. So under here, we use two decorators. One is the output to signify the output, and the other one is a render UI, which will render it to the screen. And we're going to create a gallery. This is render not defined, part of Shiny. And we have that piece of text here, right? So if I save it, it comes up right here. So quite nice to work with. Okay, so let's put in the gallery. We'll create a Python variable count. It's going to be of type integer. We'll set it to the input n. There. Whoops. The n is from right there. So it's this UI element that's going to get the value of it. So using an f string, you see the value. And now it's interactive. Beautiful. So using this concept, let's create a little box for our UI element here. Div. And we're going to drop something in here. Initially, no change. But since we have this div, we can create a for loop here. For I in range count. And now when we work it, it increases so there's 11 here. Can we add the I here? I could do this. So there should be 9. So this is the index value here. increase it 14. Okay, I'm going to replace it on the site, which is a free image API service or placeholder images. Let's pick some .photos. Let's first place it. We'll save it. Okay, the string is coming up. Place it with image. And we'll do a source equals. And we have the same image at this point. But we can use the integer. And we'll add 10 to it so that it doesn't start at 0. And now we have the images coming up. There's 9 images come up this way. And they're kind of big. I'll cut down the size. Okay, so let's go back to our div here, where it's the primary div. We can actually add a class in here. We'll put a gap of 3. Unpack it. Okay, let's cover what we learned today. Shiny, it's an interactive framework for web applications. There's a UI, and then there's a server. This tutorial is for Python developers that want a Python-only UI. There's no JavaScript, there's no HTML. I've looked at a lot of these frameworks before too. This one's pretty good. And because it gives on not only all these widgets, but it has very strong data visualization. And in the future, we can add these professional looking charts, maps, and dashboards. If you're a Python developer, there's this huge benefit. You can write in Python. You can write the UI plus a server all in Python, all in Shiny. I have another video that uses FastAPI as the back end. So you could actually just use Shiny as the front end. It's a fast way to prototype. We have both the server and the UI in Python in the same application in a very small number of lines of code. It's very visualization friendly. So in the future, we can grow in our skills and have these beautiful plots, interactive widgets. The cons is that it's still a web app. It's not a mobile app like Flat that we covered before. And under the hood, it's HTML, CSS concepts. So if you know a bit about HTML and CSS, it is going to help. But unlike something like, let's say, Jinja, which is written in HTML and have Python embedded into it. This is a Python application, so it's quite nice. Although for more advanced UI customizations, we may need to jump into the CSS and JavaScript. For now, we didn't touch it at all. Right, let's review the UI. There is an input slider. This is a label here. And this label is actually used right there, right? So there's a keyword input dot, and then you just match up that N with that N. Also, same thing, we have a output UI here. Initially, it's going to be blank, but we're saving it for this gallery here. And when it finds the gallery, it's going to start populating it with the code in this function here. That's how we connect the UI to the server. When the slider moves, it reruns the gallery every time. We can do separation of concerns. We can move these components into a separate folder, maybe views, screen. You can also put the server code in a subfolder called server. Right now it's all in the same file, but it is nice that it can be broken out into separate pieces. The app is reactive. When we move this, because it's connected to the gallery here, and it's connected to the slider, so it knows that this N is inside of gallery, and so it's just going to rerun this portion of the code every time. And this is quite a bit better than Streamlit, where it's typically run top to bottom for the script to rerun. So we have things that start with UI in our code here. UI.h2, UI.input slider. We can put this into a separate component group as well too, and import it into this file. They output HTML. At the top of the import statements, let's do another import from HTML tools, which this is built on top of tag. So in this gallery, it does return a type of tag. In the bottom terminal here, I'm going to add a type checker, uv add mypy. All right, let's introduce an error here. So we know this count is an integer, but let's say we try to return count. And syntactically, our program might, there's no obvious syntax errors, but if we use mypy and check it, it's expecting a type tag, which is the HTML component, and it's getting an integer because count is of type integer. If you're a Python backend developer, maybe you're working with a database, you want to start getting into the UI, this might be one way to go. I found it pretty pleasant to work with so far, and I kind of like the performance of it. It's also pretty easy to deploy this thing to Posit Connect Cloud free tier. So as I've shown in other videos, you just need to create a requirements.txt, and there's a Posit Publisher button there. As it appears if I make this thing smaller. Posit Publisher button there, and with this you could upload it with a requirements.txt file. So we're looking for some feedback on this course. Either give it a like or ideally drop a comment, and we'll use that as a gauge to see how much interest there is. And if so, we'll start from the beginning and we'll do a course that's targeted at people who want to use these industry tools and industry deployment workflows. Ideally, they're probably a Python developer, could be novice, but they're focused on Python and they're learning it in school maybe. It's probably command line applications initially, but they want more experience with machine learning pipeline tools. They need to deploy their apps in order to build up their portfolio, ideally more complex applications. Or it's data science students who need to show a deployed portfolio. One of the reasons we're looking at the course is that there's tons of these type of post like this, or this, I think this guy is pretty ambitious. He's saying that his DS undergrad had a lot of theory, and that he eventually built his own application. So he used Postgres, which is the SQL database, extract, transform, load scripts in Python. What we're doing, he built some type of dashboard. Didn't specify what framework he used, but it'll be easier, right, if you know Python, which most CS and DS students know, to build it in Python, the dashboard. And then he put his on AWS. And everyone's saying that this gap is pretty much the norm. The degrees teach why, and the jobs test how. So there's some type of mismatch between what you're going to encounter in the job interview. And people are generally saying that, oh, you just need to learn it on your own, build some projects and deploy it, and then tell that story on the job interview.